Hey, it's CDA, and today we're playing some more Mindustry. Last time around I had a lot of fun trying to keep all the bad water out of my actual base, and although not entirely successful, but we survived, so that's the most important part, I guess. Now, this time around, I want to do some more water management and see if we can really get all of this water flow under control, so that if that happens again in the future, we'll be ready for it. Oh, and speaking of bad water, last time around I thought the bad water wasn't doing anything bad to my beavers swimming around in it, but it actually does do something. So, as you can see, this beaver is now unwell, and it spent too much time in contaminated bad water. It is fine for now, but will get sick in a few days. So I think I can fix that problem, either by my medical bed, which I already have, and I'm actually thinking I might need a herbalist that creates an antidote that cures contaminated beavers. That sounds like something that would help against getting sick. I'm not entirely sure, but let's go and unlock that. And I think I'll just put it in here, or I don't know. It needs the berries and stuff like that, so maybe we can fit it over here in the corner. I'm not entirely sure, but that should take care of that. Now, do we have everything we need to build this? Yes, we do. So now let's take a look at the water situation. Okay, so the way I think I want to work with my water, not sure if that's the optimal way, but we're going to find out, is basically working my way backwards to the source of the water. And what I mean by that is, for example, over here, I have the water coming in from this direction. It can go out that way, it can go out this way. I want to build a dam with these floodgates on every side of the exits, basically, as well as the entrance. And that means that from that point on, I can kind of direct the water and guide it in whatever way I want it to go. It might also mean that if I'm successful at actually closing, for example, this area off over here, that I could completely keep the bad water out of that, assuming, of course, I make sure the water has other directions to go, for example, in this direction or in that direction, etc., etc. Oh, as it turns out, the herbalist actually doesn't need sunflowers. I thought these were those, but no, it needs dandelions. So I am now using this little patch I had just of bare ground to grow some of those, and then hopefully we should be able to cure the couple of sick beavers that we have. I am also currently working on some additional housing because I do need more beavers. We're all the way up to 46 at the moment. We have room for 48 of them, so adding some more housing to that should bring us up to over 50 beavers. And given that population, we definitely need some more builders, so I built a builder's hut. So now we have a total of 8 builders running around, and that should speed up the construction of dams. Well, it's actually already done. That was quicker than I thought. But yeah, the point was to speed this up, and that is working like intended. On a side note, it does feel like I need a little bit more of the plank production, and I did have 2 of these lumber mills initially. I removed one when we set this up, so now I'm thinking, well, maybe we need to add in a second one still. Okay, so now I have a couple of floodgates over here that are actually raised to 65%, so I'm creating a bit of a lake here, and I've raised the other exits, this one over here and the one over here, to a higher level so that the water doesn't escape out of these sideways that are now available if I need them, but I don't need the water to flow through here right now, so I might as well make sure it goes past my base. That also means that because the water level is now higher over here, once the drought comes in, I don't just have a surplus of water here, I can actually store some water over here in this lake that might evaporate quicker than my main base's water, I'm not entirely sure, but if I need to, I could just decrease the level of these floodgates and have some additional water flowing down to the lower grounds, thereby increasing my resilience to droughts. And while I'm waiting for that drought to come in, I'm actually doing the same thing. So every now and then at some of these choke points, I am creating more floodgates so I can kind of play around with that once I finish a couple more of them to really redirect the water where I want it to go. Remember, building a floodgate is just almost free. I mean, it just costs a little bit of resources, but it can always just decrease the height completely to 0. Then it's basically like they're not there. But if I need them, I can access them from wherever on the map, and it takes a little while for these to get built because they're so far out, but once they're there, you can just control them without any beavers being close. Okay, so this is a 10-day drought, and as you can see, I'm a couple of days into that, and it's all working like intended. We have a little lake over here. I've drained it already a little bit into this lake over here, or my main lake, I should say, towards my base. So it's really working like I was imagining, not entirely, but I think once we finish this dam over here, that's pretty close to where the source of the water is, we can actually raise this entire water level almost up to the edge, and that should mean, assuming that the overflow doesn't go in the wrong direction, that we can create a similar lake to the one I have over here that can function as a complete backup lake with a lot more volume, as you can see, than the one I have over here. So then it should be nearly impossible to run out of water, at least that's what I'm thinking. So let's test the draining of this lake into this one. As you can see, the water level has been dropped a little bit further down. I have this one over here at the maximum height, so any water that reaches the edge should stay in there, or at least that's just below the edge. Now what I can do is raise this, or lower this I should say, down. Then the water should flow through again. There we go. Let's speed things up a little bit. We should see the water level rising over here. Now of course, maybe I can just go all the way down. Might be a little bit too much water. Let's find out. Now this should allow this entire area to drain into my main area down here. Yep, it's now completely dry. The water should be here. I'm not sure if it's a noticeable impact here, honestly. But yeah, working like intended, hopefully. I do think the water level actually went up here a little bit. And we are now halfway into the drought. It's a long one, remember that, and the water is nowhere near down to the bottom. So that should work like intended. In the meanwhile, the dam over here is also finished. So I'm looking forward to seeing how high we can get this water level into this entire region over here. And then once we do have a comfortable water level, I can start using this as like a secondary farming location and get some of that water food going. And well, there's no point in waiting with this aquatic farmhouse if I don't need to, so let's build one of them over here. I'm actually wondering, do I put them in the water? I mean, it's an aquatic farmhouse, right? Yeah, that's probably a stupid idea. Anyway, let's put it down over here maybe. Let's have a couple of them. I have plenty of beavers and I want plenty of food as well. So let's have it like that. They should be able to reach the farming area down here. And that means I need to start planting some stuff. Now, what plants do we have? We have spatterdock. And this must be in water, yes. And we have cattail. While it is building, it looks like that spatterdock and cattail are basically the equivalent of the potatoes and wheat we have over here. One of them actually needs the flour production as well. The cattail needs to be turned into flour, which you then, in a bakery, turn into cattail crackers, I believe. I think it's the same production rate actually. It's 1 over a 0.5 and oh, it's actually a little bit faster production. So it's 1 every 0.5. So I think it's a 1-to-1 with the gristmill production. I'm just gonna build a very similar layout like the one I have over here. We also need some grills to produce the grilled spatterdock. Let's see, this is a 1 per half an hour, and this is actually a little bit quicker again. Oh, it's interesting that the production rates are slightly different. But anyway, I think we can build a very similar layout to the one I already had over here, and then enjoy all the food our beavers are ever going to need. Alrighty, so the food production facility is almost done. I am running my power line actually all the way from my original power line over here. The drought is done, so now we're going to have to do some experimenting. I raised the floodgates almost all the way up over here and pretty much at every other side as well where the water could escape. And the idea is to get the water in this area as high as possible and then have the excess water as much as possible, again, flowing through my main base, thereby creating like a massive lake over here that we can then use for whatever we want. Now, I'm probably going to have to experiment with this a little bit because this leaves very little room for the water to escape to anywhere. But yeah, we're going to find out if this is actually going to work. Okay, the water is flooding in. The water level should be rising slowly. Now you can see the water is actually coming from different directions, which makes it a little bit hard to predict what the water flow will actually be. As long as the water is still flowing in this direction, that means the water level should be rising. I did decrease, yeah, so we can actually see the water flowing out here. I did decrease this to 0. I'm going to put that up all the way to 95 again. So all the water that flows in here now has no way to go other than, well, either off the edges or down here. This is slightly lower than all the other gates. So once the water reaches a level of 90, it should start flowing into my main base, which is also completely dry, by the way. So yeah, might have done that, should have done that a little sooner, maybe. But let's see, is there any flooding happening? Not yet. Which is not to say that it's not going to happen. And you can see the water flowing out here again. Is the water, what direction is the water flowing in over here? Well, it seems to be pretty much at a standstill. The water is definitely flowing through my main base. The water level here should be rising again. Speaking of which, I definitely need to lower the water height here as well. We don't want the main base to overflow. Let's make sure the water can actually go out. There we go. And now I just need to keep an eye on any flooding that might be happening, because I fully expect flooding to happen somewhere, maybe even here. But it is a little bit hard to predict. There is some flooding happening here. But that might just be because the initial water is coming in. You can see it kind of like phasing in and out. So that was happening pretty much from the get-go. Is this actually going to work like I want, straight from the get-go? Then that is pure luck. I cannot claim any experience with doing this. But, yeah. I mean, it's not working. There was a little bit of overflow, I think, in this direction. So we actually have like a mini lake over there. So the first two release valves are actually the gates over here and here. Oh, these are actually, yeah. So once it reaches 95%, the water will flow out here, or even out here. But everywhere else you can see this is actually completely filled up to the brim with water now. And yeah, we have a massive lake of water doing exactly what we want. Well then, it seems that it's going exactly according to plan. I've let it run for a couple of days more and I see no flooding anywhere, and it's doing exactly like what I want. I've even started to now kind of play around with this water over here, making this river flow into this direction to kind of make the area just off from where I am myself a little bit more fertile. I could maybe do something like this. Have it flow in here as well, although this does get more water into my main base. Not entirely sure if that's a good idea, because that also means I need to get the water out somehow again. But, you know, I can always just increase this back up. And that just means we have an additional way of getting fresh water to our main base if we want. This could actually just serve as like a backup reservoir where we can also feed the water into the main base during a drought as well. Alright, and that means that the question is, what do we do next? And I think the answer is try to make my beavers as happy as possible. This is kind of where the sandbox element of this game is slightly annoying me, because there's no clear goal, and I like having a goal. It's not a bad game, it's quite fun to do that, but if you have to set your own goals, yeah, I guess that's not necessarily for everyone. Anyway, I do have a goal, because I want my... There's a bee sting, okay. Anyway, I want my beavers to be as happy as possible. They're not all having a wet fur at the moment, so that is something we should definitely address. We can also work on some other types of food. Well, we have several of those in production, actually, so that is that. And the social, I think, should be fairly easy to get as well. So let's start with a campfire. And there we go, we have a little bit of a campfire going. It's pretty similar to the rooftop terrace, but it is a different type of social life quality that they are now gaining. And speaking of which, I have several more of those. So we have the contemplation spot as well, where only one person at a time can join, but they can contemplate nature a little bit. Now, where do we want to do that? I don't know. We can pretty much just put those anywhere. But what better place to contemplate nature than completely in the middle of nowhere? This is a little bit evil on my side. Actually, we could kind of fit a couple of these shrines in here as well. I'm not sure how many of those we need, but, you know, let's make sure we have that going. Now, the Lido is a perfect place to relax by a river. Now, that actually sounds fun, and it's also something that will fix the wet fur thing, which we do need because not everyone has a wet fur at the moment. Now this thing needs to be next to the water, and as you can see, it's kind of like a bath almost that we can place down like that. And I think this is a pretty nice place to put that. Now let's see, what else do we have? There are a couple of other things I can actually unlock, but all of these need materials that I currently don't have yet. So before I start moving on to actually getting those materials, let's check out what we have in this tab. Because we made people happy with a roof, there's actually quite a few other things that we can unlock. For example, a shrub. Bring me the shrubbery. If I place a shrub somewhere over here, pretty much every single beaver is going to pass that at some point during the day because they're all needing to go home. So I think that's a pretty strategic location for a shrub. And we can do something similar for the lantern. This is a little bit more expensive to unlock. Can I place it under here? Yeah, I can actually. Now, if I... Does this fit here? No, but it does fit, for example, here. So I could put it over there, and then most of them at least should be going right past that. Now I could place a second lantern over here, and this particular intersection, I think pretty much every single of these beavers is going to pass at some point during the day. Now, what else do we have? The hammock and the bench don't seem to give any particular bonus. The scarecrow does. And this has a 2-tile range. Oh, okay. If they like having a scarecrow, that's what works for me. This is also the reason, by the way, why I put these things at one step away from the road, because I figured, well, if I place down things like this over here, I thought I already unlocked it, then that should do the trick. This also seems a nice place for a scarecrow. Okay. This should give me a pretty hefty boost to my well-being if I get all of this up and running. A beaver statue. Okay, I can actually build this pretty easily. It's pretty expensive to unlock, but this gives me a 3 range bonus. Okay, actually, can I place that? I can place that right under here. It's a little bit hidden. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing part I have place, I have to say, but still, it should work. And speaking of roofs, by the way, I could just put a couple of roofs on here, but I kind of want to keep building my housing thing over here, so it might not be the best place. But what I could do, maybe, is unlock the larger roof, like this one, and then place a couple of roofs over here. I am going to expand my storage facility even further, but if I place more roofs over here, then at least I should be able to fill all of that up, because actually I don't think the roofing is completely filled out. Where is it? Roof. Yeah, so for some reason this roof over here is not reaching anyone, probably because a lot of the beavers are sleeping in this particular place and they don't get close enough. So yeah, that should fix that. And there's a lot of other aesthetic things that don't actually do anything, and there's a bulletin pole, but that is currently way too expensive. And yeah, my happiness is getting a boost. It's just popped up 4 times in a row, from all the way down from 14, I think, to 18 now. And it also means that we unlock the iron teeth. So yeah, let's take a look at this. We have the wet fur almost completely filled out. And that's actually without the spatter dog and cattail trackers coming in, because the crackers coming in, I mean, because those are still in the production. And these things are still growing, so even though I have everything ready to farm them, they're not quite being farmed just yet. Speaking of farming, I actually have a couple of other types of food that I could be making. Let me double check though if I can actually make that stuff. I think I can, probably, right? I mean, I need chestnuts, but those you can just grill, apparently. What else do we need? We have syrup along with wheat, which can be turned into... I don't know what those were called. Something like maple pastries. There we go. All of that should be fairly straightforward to make. All we need, honestly, is more beavers, because I don't have enough workers. But if we're going to be producing more food with those workers, I might as well add some of those. I can start working towards that by planting some maple trees and chestnut trees. This will take quite a while, actually, to grow, as you can see. 28 days before this is actually grown. And then it's going to start producing maple syrup, which is going to take even longer. I need a tapper's shack in order to do something with that, though. And that, once again, is going to require me to have more science. And I'm thinking at this point, and I should probably have done this sooner, I might want to focus a little bit on getting my science production up and running more fluidly. I could just build more inventors, honestly, but I want to build an observatory instead. This is going to produce science way faster than the inventors. Look at this. The inventor does 1 hour for 1 science, and this does 10 science in less than 1 hour. So this is more than 10 times as fast. It's quite a bit more faster than that, actually. So the one problem is I'm going to need 1000 science to unlock this, so that might take me a while still. Oh wow, would you look at that, 21 happiness already? Well, we actually just dipped back to 20 for some reason. That's apparently because everyone's getting stung, getting broken teeth. Well, actually that is probably not the main reason, but it might be food related or campfire related, I'm not entirely sure. We definitely need some more contemplation spots and campfires to make sure everyone can find a place to do that. Between the 69, nice, beavers that we have. But the main reason we shot up so much is now because we're bringing in the cat-tailed crackers, and the spatter dog is going to be adding to that as well. The chestnuts are still growing, so that is something we'll need to invest in the future. But meanwhile, I built a couple of inventors to add to the mix so I can produce more science, so I can work towards producing even more science, because I need 1000 to unlock the observatory. So the drought is here. I'm going to close off pretty much every exit I have towards my main water line. I am also... yeah, no, actually, let's just keep this one up. That should mean that the water can only go out here. Let's make sure that one is all the way up as well. And that should keep all the water in here as much as possible. As you can see, this is already dry now. But I want my plants to keep growing over here. That shouldn't be a problem, I think. And if it is, well, we can't really get more water from over here, I think. I'm not actually entirely sure how this will work. Is there a downside to just dropping this all the way down? Probably not. The real question is any of this water going out? No, it's not. So this should be fine. The only reason maybe not to do this is if this water would start flowing in the other direction. However, this water is deeper than the water I have over here, so I'm actually thinking that keeping this open is probably going to make sure the water stays in as long as possible. I do need to close this off because you can actually see the water flowing back here, and that is not something I want to see. Yeah, this is actually keeping the water in here as well, so we have this secondary basin here. Yeah, looking all pretty nice. And since I don't have any other specific goal in mind at the moment, I might as well just keep building inventors, because I am still growing my beaver colony and therefore have more people to employ. And apparently all of this is working as planned, because I'm already up to 24 now. And yeah, as you can see, I mostly need the grilled chestnuts to come in and the maple pastries. We're working on that, and then the more advanced happiness buildings as well. I'm also looking at these monuments. Those are actually a couple of things that we could build fairly easily if and when we get the science to unlock them. Some of the wonders, at least I think these are wonders, monuments. The first one, for example, only costs logs, and we have plenty of those, so that's not a problem. And it has a 7-tile range, so if we just place it anywhere near our living facility, everyone will get that bonus. And yeah, that's a very easy way to get some additional happiness going. Look at the beauty of our village. I so much like the aesthetics of this game. The little beavers, the nice wooden buildings all over the place. Yeah, it's a beautiful game for sure. However, I have a problem, because I unlocked the observatory, but of course I didn't check what the actual materials I need to build this. I promise you guys, at some point I'm gonna figure this out, but give me a break. First time playing the game, although it's right there, so I should probably have looked at it. Anyway, I'm gonna need some pine resin, and that means I need pine trees, I assume. Are these pine trees, actually? Yes. So, we do have those very close by. I'm gonna need to build something like a stairs or something like that to reach those trees. But we do have those pine trees close by, and we actually cut down all of those trees. We have some of them over here. So, how do I actually get the resin out of those trees? Oh, okay, so we need the tapper shack for this as well. That's interesting. That's at least 2 birds with 1 stone. The only problem is I need 500 more science to unlock this. I do have all the materials to actually build the tapper shack, so at least that I have that going for me. And in the meanwhile, while we work on the signs to do that, I can figure out a way to get to some of these trees. I might actually just plant some more. Can I? Yeah, this forester might need to move a little bit further down, so we can plant some of those trees over here as well. Okay, so that is 500 science. I am planting some trees over here, and we can fit in the tapper shack right over here and next to the forester that I relocated a little bit. I might put some trees up here as well. Once I figure out what I really want to do with that. Actually, well, no, let's do that straight away, because there's nothing wrong with adding some more pine trees to this, I guess. And it might look quite nice as well, just to have this area filled up with some more trees. Especially the fertile area over here, of course. There we go. So, let's start planting some trees, give this forester something to do. And that means that we now have the tapper shack up and running as well. Now, why are you not doing anything? Oh, because we actually don't have enough beavers. We have plenty of room to add more beavers, though. We just need to wait a minute before they all grow up. That said, I don't really think I need 8 workers anymore for the moment, so let's reduce this a little bit, down to 4 in total. And that should free up some workers to make sure this tapper shack can start doing its work. Now this is actually going to have a double function, because it can not only make the resin but also the maple syrup that we're going to need for our little foodstuffs. So, you know, 2 birds, 1 stone, and so on. What's really interesting though is that the resin needs to be stored in a warehouse. So this warehouse over here is starting to look pretty cool and impressive. However, the syrup is going to be in this medium tank. Now, if we're able to fill up this entire tank with resin, syrup, I'm gonna have a lot of fun with that anyway. But yeah, we have plenty of water. Why not have a lot of syrup as well? That also means that I think I am close to having all the materials I need for that other production. But yeah, again, there's no reason to rush the actual setting up of those buildings, because we're still waiting for our trees to grow. The nice thing is though, because we do have some of those grown pine trees over here, I do already have the resin, so I can start working on getting my observatory up and running. And the drought's just ended, and look at all this water that is still here. It is awesome. Look at the awesomeness that is an observatory. We're going to be placing that here, and the reason is that we have the power line over here, so I can just hook it up to the central power and make sure that we're using that to our full advantage. We are producing a fair amount of power. As you can see, we are up to about 600 power now, thanks to some of these windmills. I probably want to add some larger windmills to the mix at some point as well. Yeah, we could, if we have all the science, then we can place those windmills pretty much wherever we want. Maybe up on the hill here or something like that. And then just bring the power down and connect it to the other power. And it should be awesome. Look at the speed we're now producing science. Even though I'm playing at the slowest speed, it is still shooting up. So we should be able to unlock pretty much whatever we want at this point. And I even deleted all the inventors. I could have left those up as well. Or, I don't know, we could build 2 of these things. But I do want to be a little bit conservative about how much power I'm spending. Because as you can see, we're pretty much just spending everything that we're producing right now. Speaking of which, this setup should add quite a bit of power to the mix, and again, if the wind drops, then it's not going to be working. I have a plan for that as well. But in the meanwhile, speaking of plans, there's a bad tiding coming, and that means I'm going to be able to test my little setup with all these water flows. What I want to do is completely close off this flow over here, completely open up this one. In hindsight, I should have maybe made this another floodgate to make sure I could dump all the water through here. I'm gonna close off pretty much anything that leads to my base, and that might ruin things. But I'm going to open this one up, so any bad water coming through here do I want to do that? Because that is going to come right up to my doorstep over here. Well, in that case, what I should probably do is build a little floodgate over here, like so. Of course, I definitely also want to do this. There we go. And by doing that, then hopefully I can block the bad water over there, so it doesn't contaminate my little farm over here. And yeah, then all in all, I think that should work out just fine. Now, what's the height I've set over here? It doesn't really matter, honestly. I'm gonna put it to 95 or something like that. And then as long as this one is lower, the water will be flowing out in that direction. I can actually start doing that now, so we have some clean water over here. Does it matter? Probably not, but still. I'm also getting so much science now, I can just pretty much just unlock whatever I want. And I figured, why not unlock a nice little farmer monument? Because honestly, my farmers are working very hard at everything they do. Now, where to put this thing? Okay, let's see. We have the bad tide coming in. Let's speed this up a little bit. I closed down this floodgate over here. So, yep, the bad water is streaming out in this direction. It can go through here. Let me double check if I close these ones, open these ones. Yep. That should all work just fine. Now, let's see if I can actually keep the bad water completely out of my base this time around. Honestly, this looks very promising. You can see this water is getting contaminated, but it's not getting through here. And I don't really care about this water. Obviously, that is always going to be contaminated considering it comes down right from the mountain. Everything else is as well. But as long as there's no water coming through to my main base, yeah, all of this is apparently able to exit all of that. And look at my happiness shooting up in the meanwhile. I'm not entirely sure what is causing that. What did we just gain? Ah, no. I know. Look at that. Wow, indeed, yes. It is right next to my facility, so all my beavers are going to be looking at the awesomeness of our little monument over here that is right on top of where I'm storing all my food. I thought that was appropriate. And it's kind of like nice and high up in the air over there. It is awesome. So yeah, this is definitely one of those games where you consistently get distracted by everything, but yeah, I really like how this is working. Now, I am a little worried about the fact that this is almost overflowing, so I do hope that we're actually able to funnel everything out this way, but honestly, if there is anything going to spill over, then it's going to spill over in this direction, or like in this direction first, because that is where the floor is at lowest. As you can see, this is also why I built this as a double floodgate, so that the spillover is not going to go in the direction of my main base, at least not at first. And the bad tide is gone. Now we just need to flush out all of this bad water before I open my floodgates again, because otherwise I'm still going to contaminate my base, but we're not in a rush. As you can see, the water is doing just fine. And you know what's better than one wonder? Two wonders! Yeah, I figured might as well just build the one that is completely made out of planks as well. And as you can see, we're now above 30 happiness. We're dipping up and down a little bit, but I think this should shoot up even further once we actually get the other 34 of the beavers to visit this wonder as well. That also means I am now kind of done with everything that is wood and plank related. We can actually still upgrade our planks with the wood workshop. Now we have resin going, might as well do that. Yeah, we can fit that in over here, and we probably want another storage area in that case, because, you know, we need to store those new planks somewhere. At least I assume they go in here. Yep, they do. The treated planks will be quite nice. 33 already. And yeah, 34. Okay, keep spamming me. I think this is a good place to end this episode, so we can spend the next one focusing on anything metal related, and maybe even completely finish out the technology tree and happiness tree. I'm not entirely sure. We do have a drought incoming, so we're definitely not out of the woods yet. But either way, I think my village over here is turning into a nice and impressive little busy place. What I definitely also want to do is, I think you can actually build robotic beavers as well. But again, we need metals for that, so that is something we're going to be working towards. Anyway, if you're still here and you're enjoying all my rambling about beavers and floods and dams and things like that, you are awesome, and I do hope to catch you in the next one.